From Councillors Irvine, Hipsey, Moody, Lewis and Venning. Yes.
Bill needs to declare when we must interrupt and tell us. Anybody want to declare an interest at this stage? No? Yes? Councillor Marks.
I don't know, it's on the budget policy, but citizens' advice, the portion when we talk about the grant.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Because of virtue of employment.
Minutes of council meeting, 12th of March. Enclose any comments? Are you happy with that? Or any matters arising from the council that we're not going to discuss later? Okay, can we move those? Thank you. Public representations and questions. I haven't got any. Don't think we have any, do we, Town Clerk?
None, sir.
Okay, thank you. Items requiring a decision, general finance, schedule of payments. You all should have had a chance to look at this. Any questions, comments, or are you happy to endorse those? Council, Town Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say, we did have one question in connection with a payment with regard to electricity in the cemetery, and we are reviewing that, and we will keep the member concerned involved.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll endorse those. Budget monitoring report. Again, any questions? Okay, so we're happy to endorse that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Budget and Policy Committee. Consider the minutes of the meeting of the Budget and Policy Committee held on Tuesday the 9th of April. Deputy Mayor, please.
Oops. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to present the minutes of the B&P Committee on the 9th of April. 379, apologies for absence. 380, confirmation of minutes. 381, declarations of interest. Items for recommendation to Council. 382, grants policy and associated arrangements, from which there is a recommendation. It's a very long recommendation. Does Council wish me to read it all out, or can I just give you the headlines? Headlines it will be. Thank you. Recommended that Tavistock Town Council approve and adopt the revised grant application form as appended, the revised 2024 grants policy as detailed on the drafted grant application form, and assessment of grant applications received. Little d, those were A, B and C, allocation of available funding, and there is, I picked up a slight discrepancy in that, and perhaps I could ask the clerk just to correct that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, if you look in section D on the last dash point, so the one that immediately precedes the noted that, it would be the addition of the following words at the end of the sentence. So the sentence reads, for all applications received which are eligible for a grant, if the total amount requested exceeds the available budget, then a consistent percentage reduction will be made to each application to bring the overall funding below the upper budget level, and then the insertion of the words, or reduce the maximum payable, or identify priority applications for support. And that's to reflect the fact that three options were actually discussed at the Budget and Policy meeting, in order that it doesn't look as if there was only the one option available in that particular situation. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So I move the recommendation.
Councillor Parker.
Just a question on that last point. Would that reduction also apply to the CAB, which is a second category?
The CAB is funded as a percentage of the grants budget, and that is funded separately. So my understanding, as currently configured, is no, the CAB would continue to have a set percentage of the overall grants budget. This would relate to those applications which are actually considered on a case-by-case basis each year in relation to those which are received.
That's the way I read it. Thank you.
Okay. So, have we got a seconder for that, please? Yes, Councillor Ewing. All in favour, please? Carried. Thank you.
Councillor Mann?
Yes, do you want to get Councillor Mann in? Thank you. Councillor Mann left there. Councillor Mann there left, of course, because she's got a declared interest. Thank you.
Thank you. 383, Council Communications and Engagement. Again, there is a recommendation. Recommended that Tavistock Town Council establish a working group of up to 5 councillors, reporting back through the Budget and Policy Committee to undertake a community mapping exercise including of those interests and individuals not represented by or through organised groups, to 1, identify gaps in communication engagement by the Council, 2, review how councillors can better communicate, engage with the community. Then B, by the 31st of July 2024, identify any changes in functionality as might be considered for inclusion in the upcoming website replacement procurement exercise. I move the motion.
Okay, any questions? No? Somebody second it, please. Councillor Johnson. All in favour, please, Joe?
Sorry, can we debate?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. I didn't have a question. I just, on little point 1, where we said identify gaps in communication and engagement by the council, and then little point 2, we have review how councillors can better. We've sort of separated out the council and councillors, and I feel like there's almost like non-action for the council there. So it sort of says identify gaps in communication by the council, and then it says review how councillors can better communicate.
So
And
it
I
should.
actually think if we do identify a gap with the council,
Yeah.
then we should be doing something about
It
it.
should be council and councillors, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Should it? Is that right? Because the report itself, and I've read the report, actually does refer to ways in which councillors can engage better with the community and looking for gaps from the council. And I think the report does actually draw those distinctions. I wondered about it, and Councillor Mann's right to raise it, but I don't think it's a typo.
Councillor Mann?
Did you read this report?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think when we talked about it, there were 2 different strands when we talked about it at Budget and Policy, and this is why I'm raising the issue. There's definitely a piece for councillors to be involved with, but there was a separate, and importantly, it was about the way the council interacts with the community, and it was about saying the council itself may not be communicating the most effectively with our community, and maybe we need to target certain communities that we aren't already reaching. And it wasn't just the councillors that should be doing that outreach, it was about the council as a whole. So for instance, I thought it was really great that the assistant to the town clerk was at the Tavistock District Chamber of Commerce meeting this week, and I felt like that has an added value when somebody from the council, as opposed to a councillor, stands up and says, as she did at the meeting, we have a vacancy. It's one thing when I do that at a Tavistock District Chamber of Commerce, because it will be perceived as a political act on my part to try and get people to come and be on the council. It's something very different when somebody from the council stands up and does that. And I think it's much more effective actually for the council to have a neutral voice saying something like that in that particular environment. And it's a good reason to actually target that message to, because those are people who are already engaged with our community. So, from my perspective, we shouldn't be just passing this on to councillors, because I think there was, within this report, although the report says we do a lot, and we acknowledge that, there is certain communities that we may want to target with our messaging from the council, not from councillors. And I think that there are places where we should be having some communication from the council, separately from councillors, because of the political versus operational side of things. And that message in particular is very operational, really. We need more councillors. It doesn't have to be political. So I thought that was useful So I just want to say, I think it somehow has gotten lost because we are identifying gaps in communication by the council, and then it's almost implied by this that it will only be filled by councillors, and I don't think that's correct. I think it should be the council as well. So I'd like to, if it could, review how councillors and the council.
Yeah, so we'll put that in, okay? We're all in favour of that, putting that in, yes? That's okay, yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
Councillors and council.
Thank you. 384, Hearings Panel and Associated Arrangements. Recommended that Tavistock Town Council endorse and adopt the Tavistock Town Council Hearings and Appeals Panel composition and terms of reference as submitted. I move the recommendation.
Okay, seconder, please. Any comments? No? All in favour, please? Carried, thank you. Did we actually have a vote on the new wording for the previous one on the working group? I presume review how councillors and council can have. All in favour?
You asked us, huh?
I think we did, and then we started talking and we changed the wording, didn't we?
Yeah.
I know you asked at the end again as well.
Did we vote?
We didn't vote. We didn't vote. Anyway, we're all happy that we know we've got the new wording. That's what we're having.
Okay. Items circulated for information only, 385 heritage meetings, and then that takes us to exclusion of press and public, and we'll take the rest of the minutes in part 2.
Thank you very much. Casual vacancy. Obviously, Councillor Squires resigned, so we now have a vacancy. So I'll pass over to the town clerk, and he can tell us what's going to happen.
Yeah, just to say that we've notified the elections office. If you are agreeable, we will commence with the advertisement. I've got to check, is it the 1st or the 2nd of May? With effect from the 1st of May. If there is a call for an election from 10 electors of that ward, then there will be an election. If there is not, then the matter will be brought back to you for a co-option. This is therefore to ask you to note and endorse the process and to indicate, should there be an election, if you would be agreeable to there being poll cards issued in order to better inform the electorate and to maximise the turnout as might be.
Okay, thank you. Right, Development Management and Licensing Committee.
You need to vote on the
Do we need to vote on that?
In relation to the poll cards, if you
All
would,
right.
please.
Dr. Johnson.
I'd like to suggest that if there is an election, that we do have poll cards. It reminds people that there is an election and gives everybody the chance to go out and vote or have a postal vote should they so wish.
Yeah. Councillor Ewins?
I'm all in favour.
Yes. Councillor Ursula, do you want to?
That was all it,
That's all you're saying. Anybody want to say anything else?
Yes, please.
Councillor Ward?
Okay, thanks. Every time we have an election, this same question comes up. Do we have to address it every single time, or can we just agree that when we have an election for a place on the town council, that we want poll cards?
Seems sensible, wouldn't it? All right. That's been proposed. I'll second it. All in favour? Carried. Okay, and that's obviously what we're going to do this time. So, Development Management Committee. Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to present the Development Management and Licensing Committee held on Tuesday the 2nd of April. 369, apologies for absence. 370, confirmation of minutes. 371, declaration of interest. 372, Dartmoor National Park Authority. 373, town planning issues. 374, Tavistock Neighbourhood Development Plan. 375, general correspondence. 376, urgent business brought forward at the discretion of the chairman. 377, planning applications. Little a, planning decisions by West Devon Council, and little b, new planning applications. And the recommendation is that the town council as listed in Appendix B be passed to the local planning authority for consideration.
Okay.
That's the motion.
I will second that. All in favour?
Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, 378, next meeting, which is on there. And then I also still stay risen, if that's the right word, for the meeting that was held last night, on Monday the 22nd of April. 389, apologies for absence. 390, confirmation of minutes. 391, declarations of interest. 392, Dartmoor National Park Authority. 393, town planning issues on there. And, there was an A and a B on that last one.
That was my recommendation.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the recommendation.
Your recommendation is that basically the Tavistock Town Council welcome and accept the offer of collaboration with West Devon
Yes,
in any
that's
way
right.
that progress the plan and appraisal.
Okay. That's the one that we've got there. I do apologise, Mr. Mayor. The committee considered the proposal from the leader of West Devon Borough Council, which is says in here, the two authorities might consider working together in conjunction with the consultation of the draft Tavistock Conservation Area Management Plan and appraisal. It's noted that the committee agreed to collaborate with West Devon Borough Council in any way that would produce the plan.
Councillor Parker.
Can I ask if there's any preferred form of collaboration that the committee discussed? Are we forming a working group, joint team, or how would that do it?
I'll get my shoe on. At this stage, I think it's just having a conversation to see which is the best way forward. I think, as we all recognise, the 2014 one, the heritage from that has not really changed. You know, we haven't got any new and we haven't got rid of anything. So predominantly the plan needs to stay the same, but it just needs to be worded a lot more effectively than it was. And I think it's best if you get two sets of heads together, particularly sets of heads that were involved in the first iteration that started in about 2011-12. And actually, I have to say that with Councillor Johnson here, is that we put in hours upon hours of work into that. I mean, I think you were here there, weren't you, Wayne? And we kept sending it back to West Devon, to dear old Robert Plum, and saying it wasn't good enough. So eventually we did get something that was good enough, but it took a long time. And I recognise, and I've explained to the officers, that actually the plan is so well done that time round that there's not a lot that needs to be altered or tweaked. So I think the most I can think of off the top of my head is the plan, the neighbourhood development plan being added, that is now part of it.
Councillor Parker.
I think that's very helpful. I'll go further. I think I've said it in writing that I know that 2014 appraisal is probably the best one I've ever seen. I don't think that we do need to tinker with its presentation. We do need to add things like the Guildhall, things like the THI, and thank you, Wayne. And because a lot of progress has been made since 2014, but I don't think we need to change the structure. If we want something that's more accessible, then let's produce a little leaflet. That's all. But don't tinker with the text. It's been used so many times at appeal that inspectors love it, the heritage community understand it, and personally I think it's a waste of time to try and improve it, just add to it. The management plan is a different thing. The management plan requires political decisions about what the priorities are within the conservation area, and I think that's where my own view is, that's where the real effort needs to be put. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Right, thank you very much. Okay.
Are we...
So I mean, I'm happy to second that. It's been proposed. All in favour of that recommendation? That we quote? Thank you.
It's, I would point out, Mr. Mayor, that the note, the committee agreed to collaborate with West Devon in any way that would produce the plan. It was a very wide, as it was a draft, it wasn't something which was in stone. It was something, whatever we can do, we will help. Okay. Right, 394, general correspondence, 395, Tavistock Neighbourhood Development Plan, and...
I said I wasn't going to speak, but then there's an error on there, so I just need to...
Okay.
Do you want to tell us what the error is, Councillor Mann?
Yeah, sorry, just to, it says noted that the screening option environmental report is now not required. That's not the actual message that I meant to give, and so that's my fault. I called Councillor Smith late just to let him know it's quite good news that we'd actually had the screening opinion back from consultation from locality, and we had responses from most of the statutory consultees on that, and the screening opinion, which was basically saying that we do not need a full SEA, has been agreed by everyone who did reply. So all of the statutory consultees agreed that we don't need an SEA based on the current Tavistock Neighbourhood Development Plan. So that's what it is actually, but the screening opinion itself is completed and was completed. We've already seen that. This was just the return from the consultation that they did for us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith?
Right, 396, urgent business brought forward at the discretion of the chairman. 397, planning applications, little a, decisions by West Devon Borough Council, and little b, new planning applications. And the recommendation is that the views of the Town Council, as listed in Appendix B, be passed to the local planning authority for consideration. That's the proposal.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Mann, yes. All in favour, please?
Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Last one, 398, next meeting, to which everyone is very welcome.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Good. Service reports. To receive for information, General Manager's report. You've all got these enclosed. You should have time to read it. Any comments, thoughts? Okay, I don't think there's anything you want to add, is there, gentlemen? No? Okay. Pannier Market report. Okay. Works Department report. Councillor Ewing.
I did have a question, but it might be useful for everybody if I ask it here, because I know the General Manager will give the answer. I drove past the Fanwell Street the other day, and I think I was watching the General Manager have a handover, because there was one in high vis and there was one of him. So I assumed it might be like a handover meeting, and then said, oh, it'd be great, it's open soon, to discover it's July, August. I don't know whether you'd be interested in explaining.
He'll explain why, yes.
Yes, I've just seen Mrs. Johnston's face now.
I think if I can reference back probably to a comparable project, which was the works to the public realm in front of the Guildhall, and when we did the re-landscaping works around the War Memorial, most of you will recall that we had to keep the fencing up for about 3 to 4 months to allow the ground to settle and re-establish itself. Now, currently the majority of the play park equipment has been installed, but due to the time frames of the works being undertaken, a huge amount of ground disturbance works happened. The contractors are due to return shortly to regrade the ground, and once the ground has been regraded, again it needs time to actually settle. So it's a two-stage process. The install happened, the ground was required to dry out. The ground has now dried out. Now that the ground has dried out, we need to regrade it, and at the point that it's settled from the regrading, with the principles of how grass matting is installed, it's installed on the natural contours of the actual existing surface. But we were not going to be in a situation where we allowed Wicksteed to install the grass matting on a ground surface that has taken a huge amount of churning up to undertake the groundworks. So realistically, we're regrading works. You need to probably leave it another 3 to 4 weeks for the grass matting to then be reinstalled. And at the point the grass matting is reinstalled, another 3 to 4 weeks minimum for the actual ground to take and reseeding, etc., prior to the park being reopened. There is also other works that need to be planned in on that project, which is around improving access and egress points. So, for example, the main route into the site, because of all the vehicle movements, etc., and also the flooding, prolonged flooding that happened, requires an awful lot of chip-ins to be installed on the main route in. Equally, we need to actually do some works to the steps on the side access plan for the play park, and also do some stabilisation works to the surrounding wall of the actual park itself, which are all planned in. So there's quite a few other elements that need to fall in line for us to open the play park to a situation where the play park is safe for what is expected to be a lot more users than currently historically has been used.
So sadly, it can't be opened yet, which is a great pity, isn't it? Because we've got this lovely new park that we want to get used. But we do want it not to be damaged before it starts. Okay. Town Hall and Butchers Hall report. Councillor Mann.
I was just very excited to see the use of QR codes coming through town. So we've been using those for the last 2 years for the neighbourhood plan, and I thought that was a really good use of our advertising as well. So I've checked all of them out, so you should be able to track me now online.
They work, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, very good. Okay, finance and other matters.
On the QR code, are we going to have a regular check of QR codes to ensure somebody doesn't place a QR code over the top of our QR code, which is then a scam? QR codes are very, very good, but they're also very, very open to misuse. So there's a general scam where a well-known trusted QR code will be overlaid with a QR code which leads to a scam or leads to a virus to be downloaded. So we just need to be sure that whoever is responsible maintains an infrequent check.
So can we pass that message to whoever looks at it? And just for information, Robert, it doesn't matter now, but this is being broadcast, and if we may hear you, but these microphones don't for the people listening. Right. Thank you. Right, report of the assistant to the town clerk. Mrs. Smollicum. Okay. Notes of the Whitchurch Down Concert Group meeting held on the 16th of April. Any comments or thoughts on that? Okay. Councillor Parker is thinking about it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just... Somebody has raised the issue of dogs on leads on Whitchurch Down, and I think it's in these minutes.
It is.
Was anything resolved?
The discussion or the approach we agreed was it was going to be reviewed and then picked up at the next Whitchurch Down meeting. So we need to look into it a little bit more to find out exactly what the rules are pertaining to the dogs in Leeds.
As a user with a dog, I'd be very interested in being kept up to date with that.
I'd find it incredibly difficult if they decided they wanted dogs on leads. I think it would be a problem. Councillor Johnson.
Not all of Whitchurch Down, of course, comes under the National Park. National Park has a bylaw about dogs and leads, I believe,
Yeah.
but not all of Whitchurch Down is under the
That's
National
right.
Park.
That's right. Okay, Town Clerk.
Please don't take this as authoritative, but I think it probably is the case that irrespective, dogs are required to be on leads during the months of March and April because of the lambing season. I may stand to be corrected on that, but I think that probably is the case.
31st of July. It's 31st of July.
For lambing or for birds?
On the park, under their rules, dogs should be on leads on Dartmoor National Park land until the 31st of July. And that's within their rules for birds and lambing.
Councillor Parker.
That is only partly true. The revision to the bylaws was abandoned the year before last. That would have been one of the changes to the existing bylaws. The dogs on lead requirement applies, as I understand it, to the countryside and countryside access land, which the nearest area is by Princetown by Yellowmead Farm. So Whitchurch Down doesn't fall within that requirement, as I understand it.
We'll try, sorry.
Either way, we'll clarify the position.
Yeah. Yes, I think people want to know.
Can I say, Mr Mayor, having been at the Whitchurch meeting, the way it was worded, sorry, apologies, the way it was worded that there was a
You are in trouble, aren't you?
I'm not doing work tonight.
Start again, Barry. Come in.
At the Whitchurch meeting, the National Park was discussed, and one of the things that came up was that the conditions on the National Park had to be established to find out whether this would impact upon our Whitchurch section. It was worked out that we needed time, as the General Manager has said, to find these things out and make sure that what we were doing was correct in relationship to other people in the general area. That was it, as I understand it, so that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Right. To receive any updates from or questions to council representatives serving on other outside bodies. Councillor Johnson, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I attended the meeting last week of the Oakhampton Oak Rail, and the main thing we talked about was bus connectivity, and made me realise how important it is for even our 118 bus to join up to the railway at Oakhampton, which I think they do a pretty good job. So I think we're lucky. There are some communities where the bus kind of sails by and doesn't stop and go to the railway, so that's something to be thankful for. I can just remind members, as I also sit on Tabby Rail, tomorrow night in the Town Hall there is a meeting which the leader of the Borough Council, Councillor Mrs Ewings, will be on the panel to discuss the railway and the station back at Tavistock. So we have the funding to be promised for the railway back to Tavistock. Network Rail has the funding to write the bid and prove value for money, so it should be an interesting meeting. And it only is scheduled to last for an hour. There's been quite a lot of publicity for it. You are supposed to register that you want a place on it. If anybody hasn't got a place, they need the details of where to register. Please get in touch with me.
Okay. Councillor Munro.
Can I just clarify location? I thought that was going to be the Better Hotel, wasn't it?
No, Town Hall tomorrow. Town Hall. Okay. Councillor Smith.
Try and do it the right way round, Mr Mayor. On an outside body, can I just express, on behalf of Tavistock Lions, thanks to the Works Manager for arranging the loan of some bollards for the St George's Day Parade. We had a fairly late security or safety problem regarding the scouts forming up before they marched off, and she provided those for us very quickly. And we just would like to express our thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Scout parade was great fun. Our MP and the mayor ended up running down Plymouth Road to get in front of the band and the parading scouts to take the salute. It caused a lot of laughter. Geoffrey Cox told me he'd not run for years.
Only for Parliament.
Feedback from members following their attendance at any training sessions. Okay, thank you. Right, there's no more communications from me, and I have no urgent matters. So can we go to part 2, please?
Part two, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.